Joy to the world. The Lord has come. 25 days of joy. Thanks for joining me this morning for my morning prayer walk. We're in the Gospel of Luke, and here we are studying Zechariah. Zechariah had been given the special honor of working at the tabernacle, or in this situation, actually the temple. He was on the inner court. There is the Holy of Holies and the holy place. He was inside the holy place. And as he was inside the holy place, he was given the assignment to burn incense on the altar. It's a symbol of offering up prayer. While he was doing so, the angel of the Lord appeared to Zechariah. Our story today is so remarkable because it's about Zechariah having spent all of his life praying. He got so used to unanswered prayer that when the angel of the Lord appeared and spoke to him and said, "God has heard your prayer," the Bible actually records that Zechariah didn't believe. Isn't that amazing that we would spend our whole life praying for something, then God sends an angel and says, "I've answered your prayer," and we turn around and respond with unbelief. Unbelief. Well, the angel responded to Zechariah's unbelief by having him be unable to speak. King Solomon would write it. You might recall it. It's found in the book of Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything. There's a time to speak and there's a time to be silent. And that's exactly what Zechariah discovered. He discovered there was a time to be silent. It all happens because he got so used to unanswered prayer. He just couldn't believe that God had heard his prayer. He couldn't believe that God was answering his prayer. And the angel of the Lord responded to his unbelief by having him be unable to speak. Then at the end of our story, we discover that when he comes home, he and Elizabeth conceive, and God fulfills his promise. It doesn't make any difference whether we can speak or not. It actually turns out in this story that God's promise is greater than Zechariah's lack of faith. Isn't that amazing? Boy, there's a lot of theologians that's going to struggle over this. I've always been taught that I have to have faith for God to answer my prayer. In this, I want to encourage you in your faith today. Don't ever become weary or tired of what you pray about. God's timing is God's timing. It's not always up to us. It's up to God. And sometimes God will actually call us to an experience like Zechariah. The Lord will just say to us, "Be quiet. Stop speaking. You talk too much." I used to live in Japan when I was a teenager for a few years, and I had a dear friend of mine, Mitsura, who was Japanese, and I was from America, and our cultures were very different. We would compare notes, and I would ask him, "What do you find so interesting about Americans?" He says, "That's pretty easy. When they don't know what they're talking about," he told me, "they talk even more and more and more." I thought that was kind of interesting. But that was his teenager opinion about Americans. But you know, through life, I've kind of discovered that maybe Mitsura was right. When we don't know what we're talking about sometimes, we talk more and more and more. Sometimes, like Zechariah, God needs to silence our hearts so that his perfect plan can come about. Oh, don't be afraid. Recognize that God hears your prayer. And it's okay to spend time with God and even with others in a moment or a season of silence. God loves you, and so do we. You be blessed today, and remember, joy to the world. The Lord has come.